Okay, sige. Ayun. So you have here our last our last topic for professional conduct and ethical standards, which is the ethics for criminologists. Now, this is the last topic because it deals about your licensure examination, how you should, what qualifications you should have in order to take the board exam for criminology. Now, the previous law was Republic Act 6506. So it is an act creating the Board of Examiners for criminologists in the Philippines and for other purposes. But this has been repealed by Republic Act number 11-13-1, which is an act regulating the practice of criminology profession in the Philippines and appropriating funds, therefore repealing for the purposes of Republic Act number 6506, otherwise known as an act creating the Board of Examiners for criminologists in the Philippines. Republic Act 11-13-1 is also known as the Philippine Criminology Profession Act of 2018. As a matter of fact, this has been promulgated on November 2018. So it's a fairly recent law. So you should forego now with the Republic Act 6506. So what is 11-13-1 all about? It defines who is a criminologist. Under the old law, a criminologist is defined as any person who is a graduate of the degree of criminology who has passed the examination for criminologists and is registered as such by the board. But with the new law, criminologist is defined as someone who refers to a natural person who holds a valid certificate of registration and an updated professional identification card as criminologist issued by the board and the commission pursuant to this act. So, if you are tasked to define who is a criminologist, you should answer the one defined under 11-13-1 because it is the latest law. Pasok. Pasok. Okay, good sir. Let's go magsumok. Anyway, so again, if you are tasked to define who is a criminologist, you should answer the recent definition of who is a criminologist, which is under Republic Act 11-13-1. Okay, so that is an example of your pinaka-asam-asam na PRC card na criminologist. I don't know who is this Dumandan Dorio Jr. Ortega, but just picked up his image from the internet, off from the internet. Okay. Nabubay ngayon ka. Hanap po nun ka. Ano, sige, pag hindi na yan kasali dyan sa, sa affidavit mo. Ang reklamo mo is oral defamation and hindi grave threats. Buang na yun. Then, pwede man natin unan, email na lang. Okay. Who are deemed engaged in the practice of criminology? So you have here several paragraphs as to those who are engaged in the practice of criminology. Once you've passed the criminology exam, these will be your fields of practice. So you have here the first paragraph, in line with the practice of profession or occupation as a law enforcement administrator, executive advisor, consultant, officer, investigator, agent, or employee in any private or government agencies performing law enforcement and quasi-police functions at the Philippine National Police, NBI, PDEA, BFP, BJMP, Bucor, Probation and Parole Administration, BIR, BOC or Bureau of Customs, Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas, and other government and private banks. That also includes your Philippine Postal Corporation. What else? Your NICA, Intelligence Service of the Armed Forces of the Philippines, and other intelligence service or agencies of the government exercising similar functions. Also, you are also eligible to practice in the teaching profession. So you could be a professor, an instructor, a teacher in any university, college, or school, duly recognized by the government at any of the following professional and component subjects of criminology. So you may opt to teach criminal jurisprudence and procedure, criminalistics, law enforcement administration, crime detection and investigation, correctional administration, criminal sociology and ethics, and other technical and specialized subjects in the criminology curriculum provided by the CHED. As a technician, examiner, criminalist, or specialist in dactyloscopy, question document, DNA, lie detection, firearms, identification, forensic photography, forensic chemistry, and other scientific crime detection and investigation. Nindot ning letter C, no? Kay murag naka sa scene of the crime, soko. Very thrilling na job. You may also opt to be a correctional administrator, executive, supervisor, or officer in any rehabilitation, correctional, and penal institution. Apart from that, you may be a counselor, consultant, advisor, or researcher in any government. You may also be hired as a private investigator, an administrator, or consultant in a private security firm. So these are actually your fields of these are actually your kung asa mo pwede maka-practice in with your criminology. So daghan kag options kumpara sa uban, no? So what are your privileges if you become a certified criminologist or once you've passed the criminology exam? So you shall be exempt from taking any other entrance or qualifying government or civil service examination. Under Republic Act 1080, if you are a PRC degree, if you are a PRC ID holder, you are exempt from taking the civil service exams. So that's why it is my humble advice that you should take the board exam para di na mo mag-take og civil service kasi your board exam, your PRC board exam is already a testament to your strength as a as a being of higher knowledge. Magana gani. Tapos, one piece of advice also is that kung makaya ninyo karong college, pag-graduate mo og laude. Why? Because also under Republic Act 1080, if you have graduated from a school na with honors, like kanang cum laude, you are exempt from taking the civil service. So well, ang payo na lang ako if you want to be exempted from taking these examinations. So these are your privileges: exempt from taking entrance exam or any government or civil service examinations for the following positions. So you have there a lot of positions: dactylographer, ballistician, document examiner, forensic photographer, polygraph examiner, probation officer, parole officer, special investigator. So how do you apply this in real life? If you are a registered criminologist and gipangayo pa mo civil service exam, then you cite this law. Na I am privileged, be exempted from taking the government or entrance exam because I am a registered criminologist. So, na inyong iingon. Alright. Shoo. Yan. Ayaw. Okay. Section 37, Penal Clause. A fine of not less than 100,000 pesos nor more than 500,000 pesos, meaning fine within 100,000 to 500,000 shall be penalized, or imprisonment for not less than 2 years and 1 day nor more than 6 years or both at the discretion of the court shall be imposed upon any person who shall commit any of the following acts. First, practicing criminology without a valid certificate of registration and a valid professional identification card or a valid temporary special permit. Hence, if you are caught practicing criminology without valid registration or without a PRC issued ID for criminology, then you are liable under Section 37. What else? Attempting to use the seal, certificate of registration, and professional identification card of a registered criminologist or temporary special permit issued to a foreign criminologist. Hence, if you are caught again trying to use others' registration certificate or others' professional identification card, you will be liable again under Section 37 of the Penal Clause. Isa pa, securing through false information or fraudulent means the certificate of registration and professional identification card or temporary special permit. When you applied for the boards and when you applied for the issuance of your PRC, naghatag kag false information, you lied in order to get that certificate of registration, then you will also again be liable under Section 37. Isa pa, impersonating a registered criminologist or a holder of a temporary special permit. No, usurpation eh. Meaning, you are trying to impress other people that you are a holder of a criminology registration or certificate, then that is also liable. That act is also liable under Section 37. Isa pa, and other violations under this act. Any questions so far? Question, second year? Hello, second year. Hello.
No question, sir.
No questions. Sige. Okay, Kenneth. Article 3, examination, registration, and certification and licensure. So what are your requirements in order to pass the licensure exam? Except as otherwise specifically allowed under this act, applicants for registration for the practice of criminology shall be required to pass a licensure exam. Hence, you must pass your board exam in order to practice practice criminology. I think there will be a criminology exam this coming June and December. Okay, this is a requirement. Section 19, oath. All successful candidates of the licensure exam shall take their oath of profession in person before the board or any of its members, and with the APO or the accredited professional organization in an oath-taking ceremony held for such purpose. Any person authorized by law may administer oath to any successful examinees only upon membership of the accredited professional organization prior to entering the practice of the profession. In short, you may only be allowed to practice your profession once you have taken your oath before an accredited professional organizations. Once you've taken your oath, then you are free to go and free to practice any of the fields under this act. So, let's say for example, pasar lagi mo o board exam pero wa mo ka oath, you cannot practice criminology because taking the oath is a very important act. If you do not take your oath, then you will not be allowed to practice your profession. Again, qualifications for an applicant to take the licensure exam. So under Republic Act 6506 or the old law, in order for you to apply for taking the boards, you must be at least 18 years of age and a citizen of the Philippines. You must be of good moral character. You must not have been convicted of a crime involving moral turpitude and has graduated criminology from a school. However, under the new law, or Republic Act 1131, you should be a citizen of the Philippines or a foreign citizen whose country or state has reciprocity with the Philippines in the practice of criminology, meaning whether you are a Filipino or a foreigner, for as long as this foreigner has a reciprocity or an understanding between his home state and the Philippines in terms of the practice of criminology, then he is allowed by law to take the licensure exam. Tanawan ninyo na wala ang at least 18 years of age. But it is of my legal opinion that dapat professionals must be at least 18 years of age because we should be held accountable for our own actions. And for you to be held accountable, you must be at least an adult of major age. Unsa pa ang qualifications under the new law? Of good moral character, good reputation, and of sound mind and body. Pasabot, buutan ka, ang imong reputasyon, maayo sa inyong komunidad, sound mind, dili ka buang. Oh yeah, wala siya. You must hold a bachelor's degree in criminology. Again, must not have been convicted of an offense involving moral turpitude. Those who have failed 5 times must present a certification issued by CHED that such applicant satisfactorily completed a refresher course in criminology. So kung 5 times na ka nag-take, tapos on your 5th take, nakapasar na yun ka, you need to produce a certification na nahumanin mo yung refresher course. So if napansin ninyo, common between the two ang you should not have been convicted of an offense involving moral turpitude. So sa maning moral turpitude? Moral turpitude has been defined as everything which is done contrary to justice, modesty, or good morals. It is an act of baseness, vileness, or depravity in the private and social duties which a man owes his fellow men or to society in general. It implies something immoral in itself, regardless of the fact that it is punishable by law or not. So, The act itself should be inherently immoral. Kung sa maning mga moral na mga kaso na dapat dikayan ninyo. So these are examples of cases which involve moral turpitude. So abduction with consent, bigamy, kanang married na ka, nagpakasalapod ka, bago concubinage, o again, boys, when you're married, tapos na kayo mga kabit-kabit diha, mga sideline mo na mga kabit, again, bawal na siya. Smuggling, rape, estafa through falsification, attempted bribery, profiteering, robbery, labi na ning murder, whether it be consummated or attempted, estafa, theft, illicit sexual relations with a fellow worker, violations of batas pambansa bilang 22, falsification, intriguing against honor, violation of the Anti-Fencing Law, violation of the Dangerous Drugs Act, perjury, forgery, direct bribery, and frustrated homicide. So these are cases which involve moral turpitude. As much as possible, you should evade these cases in order to you to be qualified to take the board exam. All right. Okay. In terms of rating, kung sa dapat ang inyong grado in order to pass the licensure exam. Under the old law, under Section 15, in order to pass the examination, you should obtain at least 75% with no rating below 50% in any of the subjects. So, ingon sa old law, dapat naka 75 ka, o kaning imong mga subjects dapat walay below 50%. Now, under 1113.1, which is the new law, ang rating nimo should be, again, na-retain ang 75%, but this time it has been elevated from 50%, dapat 60% na in any given subject. So I think dapat mag-base 60 ko, no? Para masanay mo sa as early as college pa lang na dapat dili mo mag-below 60%. Dapat mag-base 60 ko when checking your papers. Tama ba, class? Para ma-train na mo karon? Second year pa bitaw mo? Second year, third year, fourth year, you have 2.5 years to perfect your licensure exam. Okay. Sa college pa lang, matrain na mo og base 60. Sugot mo? Or gusto niyo zero-based mo? Kung may mo tubag.
Hindi, sir.
Anyway. Section 22, revocation or suspension of the certificate of registration and cancellation of temporary special permit. So let's say you have passed the boards, you have taken the oath, and you were issued with a RC ID and a certificate of registration. So what are the grounds para ma-revoke or ma-suspend ang imuhang lisensya as a criminologist? So these are the grounds. So the first one is violation of any of the provision of this act, especially the Code of Ethics, Code of Good Governance, conviction of a crime with finality involving moral turpitude. You already know what moral turpitude is, something which is baseless, vile, and very immoral. Letter C, perpetuation or use of fraud in obtaining one certificate of registration, meaning you lied. You lied in your information when you tried to obtain your certificate of registration. Fourth, gross incompetence, negligence, or ignorance, resulting to death or injury of a person or damage to property. What else? Non-renewal of the professional ID for a period of 6 years. Grabe po din sila, eh. Without justifiable cause. Pero ako, wapa ko na ko naka-renew sa ko ang PRC ID. sa ko ang nursing for how many years na ba? 2 years, 3 years. Stick to inyong ano? Stick to inyong balaod. F, aiding or abetting the illegal practice of non-registered criminologist by allowing the use of one certificate of registration or PRC card. So, i-allow nimo ang isa ka individual to use your own license even though he is not registered yet. Next, illegally practicing the profession during the suspension from the practice thereof. Alangan. When you are suspended, you are supposed to refrain from practicing the profession. Now, if you were found practicing the profession while being suspended, na all the more ma-revoke or ma-suspend imuhang certificate of registration. Addiction to drugs or alcohol, and non-compliance with the CPD or continuing professional development and accredited professional organization requirements. Ingani mo siya class with the PRC, with the new guidelines of the PRC, dapat tanang professionals should comply with the CPD units. Kung sa maning CPD units, continuing professional development, meaning na dapat makuha na number of units every 3 years kay para ma-issuehan ka o PRC ID na nimo. That goes along well with your APO, your accredited professional organization. Apo na sila certain requirements na ginahangyo sa inyo ha, in order for you to retain your certificate of registration. Sa moang time sa nursing kay we are required to finish 36 units every 3 years. Mag-refresher good, kailangan na mo mag-take lessons on let's say maternity, mga ingana, the use of IV fluids, mga ingana, kailangan na mo i-update among selves muna CPD units. Whereas among APO requirements, dapat kabalo may extract of blood. So remember, mo itong last na ko na training if I can remember it correctly. So na siya. It really depend on your accredited professional organization kung saan i-ask sa inyo ha, na requirement. Okay, let's move on to the Code of Good Governance for the profession in the Philippines. So when you are a PRC ID holder, you are required to follow the Code of Good Governance. So the code was adopted with the PRC and the 42 professional regulatory boards to cover an environment of good governance in which all professionals shall perform their tasks. So, while each profession may adopt and enforce its own code of governance and code of ethics, naman yung general set of facts na similar among all of us. So, maraming mga similar na at least lang man ma-meet nato across the board. Professionals are required not only to have an ethical commitment, a personal resolve to act ethically, but also to have both ethical awareness and ethical competency. When you say ethical awareness, it refers to the ability to discern between right and wrong, whereas your ethical competency pertains to the ability to engage in sound moral reasoning and consider carefully the implications of alternative actions. Ethical awareness, learning what is right and wrong. Ethical competency, being able to engage in sound moral reasoning. Kabalo mo mag-isip. All right, specific principles of professional conduct. So these are your specific principles. So you must have service to others, you must maintain integrity and objectivity, must have professional competence, must have solidarity and teamwork in the area, social and civic responsibility for the community, global competitiveness, and equality of all professions. Service to others means you are committed to a life of service to others. Public service, in short. Integrity and objectivity, maintain and broaden public confidence, and shall perform responsibilities with the highest sense of integrity and imbued with nationalism and spiritual values. When you say integrity, anang dili mo ma-bribe, dili ang inyong standard maintain gyapon taas, and dili niyo i-lower ang inyong standard just for the sake of money. Walang integrity and objectivity. Professional competence, meaning your skill, your knowledge and technical skills, attitude, experience are top notch. Meaning kanang dili putyo-putyo, kanang high level of performance or competence ang ma-expect sa inyo pa. Solidarity and teamwork. So each profession shall nurture and support one organization for all its members. Though a deep spirit of solidarity, each member should put broad interest of the profession above one's personal ambition. So, wala siya. Social and civic responsibility. So, professionals shall always carry out their professional duties with due consideration of the broader interest of the public. So, again, it all boils down to the interest of the public when you perform your duties as a criminologist, as a registered criminologist. Global competitiveness, meaning your skills, your knowledge are not just top-notch in the Philippines, but also to other countries. So, kung imong practice diri sa Philippines are globally competitive, meaning pwede po kay butang dito because your skills, your knowledge are of global competency. Equality of all professions. All professionals shall treat their colleagues with respect and shall strive to be fair in their dealings with one another. So no one group of professionals is superior or above all others, meaning let's just respect all other professions. No profession is more than the other or is far superior than the other because we have our distinct responsibilities in the public. So more than equality of all professions. So that ends your ProfCon. Ayun lang, no? Tama ba?
Madara man, sir.
Manara mapetiks-petiks. So, okay. Kamay nilang kayo ang inyong coverage for the finals. Your finals will be between 16 to 22. I will just upload the examination and perhaps a project para makabawi mo sa inyong midterm. As far as I know, daghang bagsak sa midterm eh. Hindi ko sure ha. But that's according to Patrick. Siguro mga around 16 to 22 mag-exam. Alright. I will strive my best to give you an update of your prelim and midterm exams. But strive hard lang ha, because apart from the fourth year, there are 56 of them. Kamo, pila mo. I think mga around the same number. So that spells a lot of grades and papers to work on apart from my job as prosecutor. Sige. Sorry, kamutan ako na may update para malumutan siya kung kailangan ba rin mo beast mode during the finals or pwede mo mag-petiks-petiks during your finals. Anyway, any questions so far regarding your ethics for criminologists and Republic Act 1113-1?
No, sir.
Okay, sige. See you in...
Sir, excuse, sir.
Yes.
Ay, nako'y questions.
Saman. Americano. You may use the chat box kung naglisod ka sa imuhang internet connection.
Hello, sir.
Ah.
Pwede siya, ano lang, sir, sa kanang sa Word lang ang answer, i-separate lang ano, sheet sa paper sa Word niya, ipa-print na lang, tapos ipapasa na lang nako. Kay kung handwritten man gud sir na, magud ko sa tagom.
Okay. Sige, okay naman sa ko.
Salamat, sir, ha.
Okay. Tapos, ko yung isa-isa ha, i-message Ginoo, pila mo kabuok. Si Patrick ang inyong i-message kay this is word then kay he's being paid as a as my assistant to do your to sani to receive your complaints or hinaings. Yeah, siya na mo sa kwa mo forward ko sa bana. Okay, hubot na kay ako messenger karon. Kasi kisa-kisa na nag-message. Okay? Naipangutan na? Wala na? Okay, see you sa HR.